It looks like Donald Trump is under investigation again for his taxes. And so this is what, the second, third investigation now that has been launched about his taxes. And of course, it follows all these devastating reports where Donald Trump paid very, very little in taxes. And now we find out, of course, why, because he continued to inflate his assets and deflate them when it comes to tax time in order to try to get gigantic tax breaks. And so let's get to the this one here. It's from the Washington Post. They report that New York Attorney General Letitia James is now investigating whether the Trump Organization improperly inflated the value of one of his estates in New York in order to receive a massive multi-million-dollar tax cut. So this wasn't, by the way, like 2 decades ago, back in the 90s or anything like that. No, this was as soon as 2015. And so understand that he has been doing this stuff for a very, very long time. And even though he was planning to run for president and had announced that he was running for president in 2015, he was still playing these tax games. All right. So now, as I said, back in 2015, the now President Trump, back then was candidate Trump, promised to preserve more than 150 acres of woodlands in exchange for setting aside land on his estate, the Seven Springs estate. And as a result of doing that, he received a tax break of $21.1 million. So the size of Trump's tax windfall was set by a 2016 appraisal that valued Seven Springs at a total of $56.5 million. Problem is, Seven Springs isn't worth that much. In fact, it's estimated that he valued it at over double the value. And this is according to 3 Westchester County towns that each contained a piece of that property. And so it was valued at double the rest of the towns. Now, the Seven Springs appraisal obtained by the Washington Post appears to have relied on unsupported assertions and misleading conclusions that ended up boosting the value of Donald Trump's quote-unquote charitable gift and his tax break. So before I go on, I just want to address that. So giving land is considered a quote-unquote charitable gift that you can then write off on your taxes. Well, it doesn't really seem so charitable when you think about how that's set up. I'm just saying. So now, according to 2 independent appraisers who reviewed this document, they find out, of course, that he had overvalued it. And the appraisal was even written by a real estate firm that has its headquarters, and you're not going to be shocked about this, in a building co-owned by Donald Trump. Oops. And that same firm, of course, had been working with the Trump Organization for quite some time. Nothing shady about that, though. Just saying. And how the investigation also scrutinizes other valuations, other tax burdens, and conservation easements that Donald Trump's properties in Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York City also had. Now, that company, by the way, that had did the appraisal was Cushman and Wakefield. And so, again, that organization had worked with had worked with the Trump Organization for a long time, and again, has quite a long-standing history and relationship with that organization. No, I don't have COVID. Just had a cough there for a second. So, now the firm established that the value of the 212-acre estate, by assuming a future buyer could build and then sell 24 mansions on that land. So that's why they valued it so high. Oh man, hey, if we could build 24 mansions on that land, but instead we're going to give it to you. Please give us a generous tax cut. But wait a minute, Donald Trump, as you're going to see as this report goes on, Trump tried and unsuccessfully, mind you, to build like all these different things on it. First, trying to turn it into a golf course. Then he tried to turn it into, like what is that? I forget it was like condos. He tried to build houses. He tried to build all sorts of things on it, and it didn't work. None of it worked. So it's like, okay, finally, we're just going to way overvalue it, and then we're just going to quote unquote give it as a charitable gift, and then get a gigantic tax break on it. What a grift! What a grift! As I said, they said that they were going to do this valuation and say that we're going to build and sell 24 mansions. You could, but we can't, obviously, because we're giving it to you. The projects, by the way, that Donald Trump tried to build on it were stymied amid local opposition, which means people in the community did not want to see this stuff, and environmental disputes. Now, the appraisal also claimed land preserved under the easement had no economic value of its own. That's not at all true, which one independent appraiser described as quote-unquote crazy. That same independent appraiser said, this is not a good appraisal. It's misleading, and it's thin as all get out. Oh, really? You don't think a company that would be connected to the Trump family would fudge an appraisal in order to help President Trump get more money? I mean, you don't know the Trump family, apparently, if you think that, oh, no, this is completely unrelated. I don't know. I don't know how they would come up with that valuation. I guess they really thought that it was worth the land. No, it's not. It's not. He said, or they said, because they spoke on the condition of anonymity. Just to show you how corrupt, I think, appraisal and money laundering and real estate can get, this person had to speak on the condition of anonymity to preserve his relationships in the industry. Meaning there might be a bigger corruption problem here. All right. Now, that person also said, what you get is appraised values for these 24 hypothetical lots that appear to be much higher than they ought to be. And again, of course, that helps Donald Trump because, look, here's the thing. He has done so much, just a massive amount of tax grift. Again, in 2016, 2017, paying just $750 into federal taxes. I mean, that's amazing. But this guy, and the reason he does this is because he has to. He's broke. He owes $421 million. He's broke. He doesn't have any money. He's going to have to sell off his assets when all that stuff comes due or go bankrupt a seventh time. Now, in addition to the conservation easement tax break, Trump back in 2014 also classified Seven Springs as an investment property rather than a personal residence. Now, that is going to matter because later on, they're going to claim that, oh no, it's a residential. For us, we go and take vacations there. Now that got him, by the way, able to write off $2.2 million in property taxes as a business expense. But again, Trump family family members described this as a retreat. And the Trump Organization website characterizes Seven Springs as a personal Trump family retreat. So which is it, though? Is it rental property? Is it a business expense? Or is it a, residential? Is it a family retreat? You can't have it both ways. But again, the answer to that question depends on who is asking. On the public financial disclosures Trump is required to file annually as president, he said that Seven Springs is a business which only produced between $5,000 and $10,000 in total income since 2015. So he's writing off all these losses and saying, look at me, look, it's business. What am I supposed to do? I'm losing money. Give me tax breaks. Give me your refunds. There we go. Now, the report also, by the way, goes on to into detail about how he kept trying and failing to try to use this. So this is the part for anybody who thinks that Donald Trump's a business genius, right? So he buys this property from a former owner of the Washington Post, by the way, which is ironic. So he gets this property, and he's like, all right, I'm going to build all this stuff on it. I'm going to build a golf course, It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be tremendous. It's going to be the best golf course ever. It's very beautiful, right? So he tries to build this stuff. But people in the area are like, no, get that gaudy crap out of here. We're not interested in you building in this area. We actually like this area for what it is. It's nice rolling woodlands. It's beautiful. There's not a lot of, woodland left in that area of New York. And so, people didn't want him to build on that area. Not only that, but you also had the environmental issues. And so he faced a lot of problems. And since he had no idea what he was doing, he's not a super genius, he couldn't capitalize on what was there, and instead tried to build like gaudy houses and a crappy golf course. Well, he lost out on a lot of money for this. And at one point, by the way, he tried to build a Bedouin tent for Muammar Gaddafi. I'm not kidding. I think this was 2008, 2009. He tried to build a tent for Gaddafi. And then bragged about how Gaddafi gave him a lot of money for the tent. Which, by the way, nobody wanted that. It ended up not even getting built. He couldn't build a tent. The guy couldn't build a tent. Business acumen, my ass. He can't even pitch a tent successfully. What a disaster. What a loser. Sad. And worse, by the way, he owes one of the cities money for wasting all their time. The Trump Organization had failed to reimburse the town of Bedford for the cost of hiring engineers and consultants to evaluate the Seven Springs proposal. A copy of the invoice, dated November 11, 2019, reviewed by the Washington Post, shows the Trump Organization owing Bedford a total of $46,976.63. What a disaster. Baby loser. So bad. He's so bad at this. But again, the issue here is he's getting all this money in tax write-offs by basically lying about his assets, overvaluing them in order to get giant tax breaks by gifting that land that he sucked it too much to actually be able to make money off of it. So that's the thing about Trump. He's a terrible businessman. You know he's a terrible businessman. And yet, when he fails at business, he tries to unload it onto you guys, onto the taxpayer. And that's what he does. That's what he does. And MAGA guys will be like, no, he's a smart businessman for not paying taxes. You idiots. He doesn't pay taxes. Guess who does? You do. You make up the difference. You make up the difference. But understand, this is who he is. And this is what he does, okay? He's a fraudster, and he's a cheat, and he's also an idiot. He's probably one of the worst people, worst businessmen ever. And no, I'm literally talking about a literal tent, a Bedouin tent for Gaddafi. He still couldn't do it. He still couldn't do it. And I know, MAGA guys, some of you will think, no, you understand, he's a genius. He's a tremendous super genius. Because, he doesn't pay taxes, and then, that just means he's smarter than me for being able to figure out how to not pay any taxes so that I end up paying more. No, what it means is that he's willing to cheat and lie and screw you over for his own gain. And if you're fine with that, well, I guess then by all means, vote for him again so that he can continue to pick your pocket. Because you're obviously, a fool and his money are soon parted. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.